Romania is not a quiet place when it comes to mergers, acquisitions, and purchases. As you can see, 2014, as I'm sure Julian can attest, as can most attorneys and accountants, it was a very active year for acquisitions in Romania. You will note that there were some acquisitions cross-border in Eastern Europe. You will note that there is a Facebook acquisition there. You will know that there are some bank acquisitions by Deutsche Bank. Many of you are probably familiar with some of these either through the news or through relatives or spouse or children or nieces or nephews that work for any of these countries. Is there anybody in the room that has worked or is working for any of the companies that are listed up here from 2014? Okay. So it was very active. Who knows how 2015 will turn out, or 2016? My prediction is that the world economy is improving, awfully slowly, but it is improving. So these are a couple of funny cartoons that I decided to include in the PowerPoint, and these are cartoons that indicate, not only in the United States, but elsewhere in the world, what we have witnessed in the past in terms of the desires for mergers and acquisitions and the mistakes that have been made. The left cartoon is a conference room where merger discussions are going on between two companies. And the gentleman on the left said, it'll never take place. Have you seen the egos involved in that room? Egos very frequently get in the way, and I can tell you through my own experience that egos of men are a much bigger problem than egos of women on a global basis when it comes to mergers. The mergers that come together the quickest are the ones where the two people that are the big decision makers are about the same age, and where one is a male and one is a female. And that's just been our experience. It may not be universally applicable, but that has been our experience. Egos have a tendency to not get in the way in those types of discussions. Then over on the right, this is an American term. Here's where we went for broke, and then here's where we went broke. We put everything into this. We went at it energetically. We really wanted to do it. We were going to be successful, and then we made mistakes during the process, and we lost everything. The company disappeared. We went broke. Combining two companies always looks good on paper, but then there are the other things. Always looks good on paper, and then you do the deeper dive, which in our recommendation is heavily up to the people in this room and their human resources and or legal and or training development roles within your companies. We need to make sure that it makes sense from a people standpoint, and we need to make sure that we make smart decisions. We don't want to have it look good in terms of numbers and look horrible in terms of people, employees, and customers. Here's a couple of other funny, somewhat typical cartoons. On the left, the CEO, the president, the managing director says, Harris, I want you to buy up anything that has .com in the title. That was 10 to 18 years ago. And so Harris went out and bought nuts.com. And then when Harris got over to nuts.com to run the company, he found out that everybody there was nuts. So that is an example of not doing the human resources due diligence that is so necessary to make sure that nuts.com is a good acquisition that adds value to the acquiring company. Confirmation bias is when we are so excited about buying that company in Sibiu that we define everything that is in that company in Sibiu or Deva or Hunadora or anywhere else. We define everything about it as good. Confirmation bias is because we want to do this deal, everything is perfect. So we don't take a close look at what's going on inside from a culture and human capital standpoint. Organizational politics, anybody worked in an organization that has politics in it? Yeah, so have I. Activity versus contribution. Many times when we're doing a human resources analysis in a merger, we see people that are very busy consistently. They are very active. They are walking very fast. They're always in a hurry. They always show up to work early. They always stay late. We need to make sure that we aren't judging the effectiveness of people based on their activity. We need to measure with data what their contribution is. And I will get to that further in a few moments. Except that some things cannot be polished. If anybody is wearing sneakers in the room today, we all know that you cannot polish sneakers. You can polish shoes, you can polish high heels. If it's leather, you can polish it. If it's canvas, it cannot be polished. It is really important as human resources professionals to accept what we cannot change, not attempt to polish what we cannot polish. And you will find that there are quite a number of things that cannot be polished. Then you need to decide whether that's acceptable. Data is much more necessary than observation. Observing people and observing functions is important, but we need to collect data as well because of optimism bias and because of other mental attributes that we all have. We need to make sure that we observe and that we collect data. The three questions, we have a tendency to be very organized to simplify things. The three questions are, can this business combination possibly make sense in terms of people? Can it make sense in terms of people? Second question is, will this combination likely succeed in terms of people? That is a whole different question. Does it make sense for all of us? And can it possibly succeed if we do the deal? Will people be happy? Will customers be happy? Will owners and stockholders be happy in terms of people? And customers are people just like owners and employees and human resources managers. And then the last one is, how do we ensure that this combination does succeed in terms of people? Those are the three steps. So, can this business combination possibly make sense? The vast majority of merger and acquisition failures are due to people and cultural mismatches. This is from a report by the Society for Human Resources Management, a US-based organization, used to be called American Society for Personnel Administration. Culture management, mergers and acquisitions. There are many, many experts that say this. We have been saying it, but we aren't the first ones to say it for years, actually pretty close to 2 decades. It is due to cultural mismatches, and the cultural mismatch does not need to remain there. With the appropriate actions of senior executives and human resources professionals, such as most of the people in this room, the cultural mismatches can be avoided to a degree of something in excess of 75 to 80%. There are some things that cannot be solved. That is when the layoffs occur, or the termination for cause for misconduct. But in mergers and acquisitions, we have found repeatedly that if we take the right approach from human resources, and it is not that time consuming and it is not that expensive, but it nearly always requires outside assistance. And the reason I say that is because everybody in human resources, who is the head of human resources in their company? Okay. Not everybody in human resources is perfect any more than everybody in finance and accounting, or everybody in merchandising or marketing or manufacturing or technology or IT. The reason we recommend that outside assistance be gained by people or experts of your choosing is because there are no politics on the part of the external person. And also, as our clients laugh and tell us, you know, the good thing about you guys being here is that you provide cover for us. You can be the lightning rod. You can be the place where the lightning strikes so that we don't have a backlash within the company. So that is not what we call a suggestive sell. Have expertise of people of your choosing if you choose to, but we have always, our clients have found after trying to do it themselves, and in our case calling us, they say, boy, things went a lot easier with you guys here, and guys and women. And it does not take long, and it really does not cost much if it is done smartly by people who know what they're doing, including you. And then closing in on some real gist. How do we ensure that this combination succeeds? This is big in terms of what Lisa said yesterday, what many of you have experienced in the past in your roles. This is where human resources can really have an impact on merger, acquisition, and purchase success. Determine core mandatory people and culture values. That is frequently a missed step, do not worry about it. People will come last. We just need to get this deal done, and then we will deal with the problems. The problem with that approach is taking that approach makes those problems bigger, and it costs more to fix them in terms of internal negativity and in terms of delay, in terms of financial improvements. Second point, utilize outside experts if that's your choice. And when you do this, no matter how large your company, it almost never requires more than a couple or three outside experts. If you are, one of the mergers that we worked on was one of the biggest mergers in history, Exxon Oil and Mobil Oil. And we were brought to that because Exxon was acquiring Mobil Oil. Mobil was a client of ours. And then Exxon decided to utilize us to help grease, lubricate, make sure that merger worked. Utilizing outside expertise, and in ExxonMobil's case, there were two of us. That's a global company. Keep things simple. If a consulting firm says, oh, we need to fly 7 people from New York, 16 people from Dubai, another 8 people need to drive from Bucharest, that is not how you do mergers and acquisitions the most effective way. Find your biggest influencers and encourage their active involvement. Your biggest influencers are the ones who are committed to making sure that the company works. Committed to making sure that the company works. And Nigel and several other speakers yesterday talked about leadership development, coaching, mentoring, and the absolute necessity of that, which we concur with completely. Monica will be talking about that in just a couple of minutes. The bottom line is all leaders have people following them. So if you want to know who your leaders are and who needs leadership development, again, we simplify things. The people who have people following them in large numbers in pursuit of company goals do not need leadership development. They are the ones who could be teaching or modeling leadership development within your company. The people who need leadership capabilities are the ones who nobody seems to be following, but really are good at what they know and what they do. So as you proceed through this, and as you do these transactions, make sure that you've got your mindset on having those leadership practitioners and influencers a big part of the equation. Facilitate communication and relationships across boundaries. Communicate constantly. I keep referring to Lisa. I need to start paying Lisa for sitting there and listening to me. Communicate constantly. There is no reason to not be transparent. There really aren't any secrets in this stuff. So the more you can communicate informally as well as formally, in the US it's called all hands meetings. It's a big meeting. At Burger King Corporation, at our headquarters, we rented the movie theater next door that sat 700 people. I was their VP of Human Resources. And whenever anything was going on, there was an all-employee presentation at the movie theater next door in Miami, Florida, to make sure that the information that everybody was getting was fully aligned and appropriately detailed. Minimize formal meetings. This is a preference of ours. It may be entirely different than yours, but we can tell you that without regard to culture, the more meetings there are, the longer it takes to start moving forward. So Bell Helicopter, Cessna Aircraft is a client of ours. They have a policy of no meetings on Friday at all, and they have fired people for it. They do not allow meetings. So we always say minimize meetings. The more informal that you can keep things, the more a part of the discussion and the listening your low-level and your high-level employees will feel. They will feel as though they're out to dinner with friends rather than waiting for the next meeting. And then the last point, reinforce and reward exceptional contributions. Yesterday, prizes were given away. Prizes will be given away today. Whether it's random or whether it's for doing an exceptional job, the more you can inspire people and reward and recognize, the more you will have people that you are partnered with in making sure that this merger works. The most fun thing in the world is to have a successful merger. We define that as within 2 years of meeting financial performance targets. Having that, and then 2, 3, or 4 years later, you go on to your second merger or your third merger. I don't know whether Kirchhoff has followed this pattern or not, but once you do it mostly right, usually the next one or the third one you will do perfectly. And that is why companies, both domestic and international, that are very good at mergers have done it between 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. Okay, the moral of the story is people costs are nearly always the first, second, or third biggest expense in business, and people is nearly always much of what creates competitive advantage, particularly in the eyes of customers. The better off we are inside our company human body, the better off we look outside, and the more customers are going to want to take their dry cleaning to us, or buy our automobiles, or fly our airline, or use the drug we manufacture, whatever the case may be. People inside, people outside, we need to bring energy to both populations. If you can do this, I promise you that your boss or your board of directors will love you. It does not take long. It adds no complexity. It actually removes complexity to the merger equation.